So did you get a good look at the first part of this video where we discovered 50 beginner-friendly patterns that has no zippers, no snaps, no buttons, just elastic? Well, this is part 2 where I am discovering 50 more patterns that you could put in your archives on no zippers, no buttons, no snap, just elastic. So if that's some content you would like to see, please continue to watch.
Where's Da Vinci?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rochelle from Rochelle.Handmade.Designs, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you 50 more patterns. This is a part 2 to the first part of me discovering 50 patterns that you could put in your wardrobe that just has elastic. So I'm giving you 50 more patterns that you could put in your archives of just elastic patterns. All right, so part 2, it's basically different patterns, all right, from all the pattern brands, whether it's Simplicity, McCall, Butterick, Vogue, you name it, New Look, including New Look patterns. I'm just going to give you these 50 patterns, but instead of doing 7 days, we're going to keep it and condense it to 5 days with 2 days off, all right? All right, so if you are new to the channel, welcome. Hello, ciao, guten tag, aloha, hola, konnichiwa, wagwan, sambanani, salom, bonjour. If you are returning, you guys know what to do by now. Go get you a quick snack, something to drink, come on back so we could go ahead and get into this video. But without further ado, I'm going to definitely put chapters in this video on each section. So we're going to talk about, total body being the dresses, upper body, which is basically your tops, your lower body, which will be your pants, your skirts, and your shorts, your coordinate pieces, which will be conditioning, and your dirty 30, which will be your jumpsuits, your jackets, and your coats. All right, so those are the 5 sections that we're going to be talking about today. I am going to put chapters once again, so you could jump to whichever part that you want to in this video. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the video. But before we do so, if you need to go do a refresh right quick, I'm giving you 15 seconds to do so. So come on back so we can get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and go over to the concession stand. So now that you have got you some tea, beverage of choice or whatnot, let's go ahead and get right on into it. Just like I set up the last one, we are going to first start off with Monday, which is total body. So we're going to go ahead and start off with dresses now. So for the dresses, there are quite a bit of them, okay? Because who don't like a good dress, all right? So the first dress that I have is Vogue 1906. All right, so this is a missus dress. Now for me, let me say this, all the patterns that I am going to show you are easy and very easy from this Simplicity website, and they are just elastic. So no zippers, no buttons, no snaps, none of that, just elastic. All right, so let's get into it. First one is Vogue 1906. So for this one, you guys, I love this dress, okay? It came out, I believe it came out last year in 2022. And you guys, guess what you need for this pattern? You only need elastic, all right? And that elastic is basically right at the shoulder area. That's all you need, just elastic. So go ahead. I'm gonna tell you to go ahead and get your paper, your notebook, a pencil or a pen, whichever one you wanna write with, and go ahead and write down these patterns. All right, let's go ahead and get over to the next one. So the next one is Butterick 6051. So this is a dress as well. We're still in the dresses, and you're going to need elastic where at? In the waist. All right, you just need elastic in the waist, but it is a pullover dress that has neckline and skirt variation. So you can switch out the skirts however you want, but all you need is the elastic. All right, moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Butterick 6054, and this is a pleated wrap dress. So Now this one is a older pattern. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to completely find this pattern in your pattern drawer when you go to Joann's. But if you cannot, you can always go to eBay, Etsy, or Amazon, which are the other 3 places that you can get patterns. Don't hate. But also, if you go to Simplicity, wait for a sale and you could definitely get this pattern. All right. Now for this one, the notions that you're going to need for this one is just elastic. Now, you will need a button and a large snap. But like I said before, you could always alleviate that by just having because it's a wrap dress, it'll tie on the side. So you could probably get away of not putting the button in or the snaps. All right. But only you know that. All right. Let's go ahead and move over to the next one. The next one is a bat wing dolman sleeve dress, and this pattern number is McCall 7465. All right. Now, many sewers have sewn this one. It's basically a knit dress. You have like some ruching going on as well. I love the fact that it's a short dolman sleeve pattern as well. 7465. Just going to need elastic, but I will say that this pattern is out of print. So if you're looking for this pattern, definitely wait for it to go on sale on the Simplicity website. All right. Moving over to the next one. So the next pattern is Butterick 6679. Now this one would be a great summer dress. All right. So for this one, I like view C on this pattern. It is a pullover dress, has close fitting bodice with a twist front detail that you see there on view C. Now, when it comes to the notions that you need, this pattern right here, you will need some elastic as well. Now, I'm not sure I believe that the elastic is for the knot that you have in the front. Not 100% sure because I would have to go to my pattern stash, and I did pick patterns that's already in my pattern stash for that reason, doing this as well. But I like that detail. All right. So when I get around to this pattern, it will definitely be view B, and I can see this as a nice summer dress. All right. A sundress. Let's move over to the next one. So the next pattern is Butterick 6680. Now this one right here, I like the fact that the dress is close fitting with the side gathers as well. I like that, and this could be an easy basic dress. You could add sleeves to it. You can make it a slit sleeve. You can make it a poofy sleeve. You can make an elastic sleeve if you want to add sleeve to your garment. Also, instead of using seam binding, you can always just draft your facing. Like I have said that before. I have a video on how to do it. You could do it for any pattern. That means basically, if you do not want to use seam binding on your armhole, what you can do is trace off your armhole, go down the armhole side 3 inches, and then at the top along the shoulder area 3 inches, and then basically connect all the lines like I show you in the drafting front and back facing as well. But I will put another video together on how to do the armhole as well. All right. It's the same method or whatnot, but I'll do one complete video, short video on how you do it at the neck, the front, the back, and the armhole facing. All right. I'll do a video like that so you guys could see and just keep reverting back to that video. If you ever come into a situation where you don't want to put bias binding on it and you just want to kind of like draft you a facing to 1, save money, and 2, make it easier to where you can use up all your fabric. All right. Now for this pattern, you will only need elastic. So let's go ahead and get into the next one, shall we? So the next pattern is Butterick 6757. This is a peasant style dress with a sash. I love view B on this pattern. I had some fabric similar to this way back in the day in a red colorway that I used a very, very long time ago. But I do like this. And of course, you're going to need elastic. All right. No, you're definitely going to need elastic because right at the neck area, it's elastic there. And at the armhole, there's some elastic going on right there as well. But you will need elastic for this pattern. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is a newer pattern. It's New Look 6731. You're definitely going to need elastic by the cutout. It's an easy to sew pattern. Like I said, all patterns is going to be on the easy to sew pattern side as well, but you will need some elastic for this one. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the next one. So the next pattern is Simplicity 8856. Now, one thing about this pattern is it says you need a button, but how you get around sewing on a button in the back, you could add ties, okay? Neck ties, right? So basically how you would do it is I'm not sure if I have a video, but I draft my ties 24 inches by, I think I do 24 inches by 2 inches, right? So when you fold it in half, it becomes 1 inch because you're gonna use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I think it's 24. I'm gonna put it up on the screen, but I believe I make my ties 24 inches by 1.5 inch because you're going to sew all the way around. So the finished garment measurement would be like 22.5 by 1 inch in particular, right? So with that being said, you're gonna basically fold right sides together. So one short side, the long side, and leave the other side, that's the short side, unstitched. Turn it right side out. And then when you go to attach it to the neck area, the portion where you would normally kind of like press it 5/8 of an inch, you put it all the way to the end. You put the facing that you would draft or whatever you do with your facing. If you're using bias tape, I don't see why, because we're trying to save some coins, right? So you would put that 1/2 inch and sew down. And then you'll have ties in the back and it'll look finished, both on the inside and on the outside. So I will look into doing a video on how to create some ties in the back. If you do not want to do a button, I will do a video and put all of that in the same video on how to draft facing for the neck, the front and the back facing, as well as the armhole facing and ties. I'll do a video like that so you are aware how to do all of that, just kind of save you some coins, all right, some bread. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern I really like is New Look 6669. And this pattern is an easy fit and flare dress with princess seam. So for this one right here, I love the fact that you have ties at the shoulder seams for sure. Now for this pattern, it looks like you do not need any ma'am notions, all right? So I'm turning it over to the back to see which notions you would need. But looking at the line art, it doesn't look like you would need any notion. But looking at the back of the pattern for notions, it just says that you need some elastic, but I can't see where you need that elastic at because it says that you need 1 1/4 yard of 5/8. I'm sorry, not 5/8, 3/4 of an inch wide elastic, but I'm not sure exactly where you will need that elastic at. I got to pull out the pattern to let you guys know, but I'll pull it out at a different time when I get ready to sew this pattern. Yes, ma'am. So those are all the dresses that I picked for, you know, more patterns with elastic. All right. So now that we have talked about the dresses, let's go ahead and move over to the upper body, which will be your tops. All right. So starting off with the tops, one of my favorite patterns. I have sewn this pattern several times in the past. It's an older pattern. It's McCall 7543. So it's just your basic off the shoulder top tunic and dress pattern. This is an out of print pattern. So if you do not have this one, my suggestion is to wait for a sale on the Simplicity website and then just go ahead and purchase it. Now, because it's an off the shoulder top tunic or dress, you will need elastic at the shoulder area. There are views where you will need that you can put some elastic at the sleeve area as well, but you will need elastic. All right. So let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall 7284. Now this pattern is the Mrs. top. You have a notch neck and you also have a keyhole top as well. It's a keyhole type top. So couple of things you could do. I already told you, if you don't want to make that keyhole because we're trying to save 1 coin, and 2, just do elastic. What you can do is make you ties in the back. So anytime it says, you know, you're going to sew a button in the back. You can always make you some ties and alleviate having to buy buttons, because we know at Joann's, they haven't been doing buttons right. They want you to pay like $4 to $8 for some buttons, and you know, I'm not about that life. So we're just going to go ahead and make those ties from some scrap fabric that I already have, okay? That's the first thing you can do. Another thing that you can do is you do have, like, for view B, you have like a bow tie that you're going to make there. So I like this pattern. I thought this pattern was nice and cute or whatever. But yeah, this is McCall 7284. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Simplicity 9604. Now this one is a Mrs. blouse. It's kind of new. A couple of things is you will need elastic at the waist. All right. So I like this pattern. I have not made it yet. I am here to make this pattern pretty soon. Probably come springtime or something like that. I will probably be doing this pattern pretty soon because I need some tops in my wardrobe. So that's that. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Simplicity 9469. Now this one is a Mrs. top. You can make it in so many different fabrics. You will need some double fold bias tape, but you guys know I'm not here for the bias tape. To each its own. You could draft you some facing if you do not want to use bias tape, but you will need some elastic, all right? And the elastics is going to go at the sleeves, okay? So, and there's view B, I believe, you will use elastic at the waist, all right? But I like this pattern. I'm here to do it by spring of next year because I'm making a list of everything that I want to do with just elastic as well as you. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Simplicity 9451, which is a Mrs. Net top. Now this one you will need like a 3/8 inch button, which you guys know what to do. Okay, what to do in order not to have to sew that button, right? You will also need some single fold bias tape, and that's basically for the armhole on view B. So you will need some single fold bias tape, but you can always just 86 that and either sew on a sleeve or make a facing. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next pattern is Simplicity 9334. This is also a Mrs. or woman's top in 2 lengths. This one, I actually like view B for this pattern. But you could do whatever view you want as well. You will need some elastic if you are doing view A because the elastic is at the casing for the hem. Outside of that, view B and view C, you will need elastic there as well, but it's more like for the sleeves, all right? But that's that, and it's Simplicity 9334. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Simplicity 9334. This is a Mrs. over the head V-neck top, and it has the straight gathered 3/4 or the short flutter sleeves. Now for this one right here, you will only need elastic if you are doing view B. The other views you do not need elastic, so make sure you write this down on your list and say thank you, Rochelle, for this pattern, all right? Moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is New Look 6638. Now this pattern right here is a knit top. It's more like a pull-on tunic or top. It has like grown on sleeves is what it's basically called. Now this one, I like that it's an easy to sew pattern because, you know, a lot of patterns that I've been doing lately has been like your average, lots of pattern pieces. So we are going to go ahead and get these easy patterns out the way as well, all right? Now, I showed you all the patterns that's in the upper body portion, which is, you know, the tops, all right? Now that we talked about both the total body, the upper body, let's go ahead and get into the lower body, which will be your pants, your shorts, and your skirts. All right, so the first pattern in the lower body is a pattern that I have done before that, to be honest with you, I do not like how they came out. I think I should have enlarged the hips a little bit and lengthened it. Now, the pattern that I'm talking about is McCall's 8221. I did this pattern doing hashtag sewing 5 and below. All right, so it was a collaboration with myself as well as Creativity by T when we did the Sewing 5 and Below series last year in 2022. During the springtime, we did Sewing 5 and Below. Very big hit. on both channels for sure. Now this one, you're gonna need some elastic in that waist, all right? Now one thing that I will mention in my experience, and I know Talisha from Creativity by T, she will probably contest to this as well, that with the shorts, it seemed like the crotch curve was a little too high. So my suggestion would be to measure your crotch and make that adjustment on your pattern. Also, because I have wide hips, we have discussed this many a times, right? I would definitely say enlarge the hips if you have a round booty like I do. Make sure that you enlarge the hips because you don't want the shorts to look like you have a wedgie. All right, just saying, you don't want those shorts to be all up in your crack like this. That's not a good look. All right. But this is McCall's 8221. Let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern. All right, so the next pattern is McCall's 8097. I have done this pattern last year during, I think it was the skirt series. I did just the first tier. I did one tier. All right. On this one, I'm going to put the pictures up so you guys are able to see it. But this is an easy to sew tier dress. You guys, I love this pattern. It is super, when I say super, super easy to sew. You could get you a sexy little thing in this skirt, right? By just doing one tier. That's what I did. And you could do the same thing. Now, when you might want to ask, like, which view did I do? I did view C. So I did the main portion of the skirt and then just one tier. And it came out beautiful. Now, one thing that I will say is it is a little short, but in my defense, I would highly say enlarge that piece. That's it. All right. But outside of that, I love this pattern. All right. Moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall's 8098. It is a pair of elastic pants. So who don't want elastic pants? I do. Okay. Now, this pattern is like your full leg pants. I mean, you can make, they are wide leg. So if you're not a wide leg person, this pattern may not be for you, but I'm just giving you this pattern because you could always take in the legs and make it a slim fitted leg as well. All right. But this pattern is McCall's 8098. Let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern. So the next pattern I have done 3 times. But I think I have only photographed twice. So the first time I photographed in this pattern, which is McCall's 8052, the old pattern is McCall 6843. So I use McCall 6843 because it's already cut in size, but the new pattern is McCall's 8057. I have done the shorts in this pattern twice and the pants once. So I did it in a blue Ankara fabric and then in a pink. I'll put both of those photos up so you're able to see it, but it's basically Mrs. Elastic waist shorts and pants, and they're basically straight leg pants. I love this pattern, but one thing I will say is the shorts are short, so you may want to enlarge, because what I did on the first time I made it, which is the blue, they look like coochie cutters, right? So the second time I made them in the pink, I went ahead and made sure to lengthen them, and I lengthened them by 2 inches. All right. But this is McCall's 8057. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is a skirt, easy to sew skirt. It's McCall's 8055. Now I have not gotten around to doing this A-line skirt, but this pattern is one of the patterns that you can do and create 7 different skirts, because this pattern is one of the patterns where you could do skirts in so many lengths, because it gives you 7 different lengths that you can do the skirt, and all you need is elastic. Okay. All right. So this is McCall's 8055. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is another easy to sew skirt. It's McCall 7933. Now this pattern is basically your pull-on asymmetrical knit type skirt, loose fitted through the hips. It's worn about 1 inch above the waist. So yeah, this one is an easy to sew pattern, but I like that effect of how it's asymmetrical and you have that ruffle just coming down towards the side. That looks hot. All right. But this is McCall 7933. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall 7786. Now this is like your easy basic trouser pants. It's loose fitted, pull on type pants. All right. Now, the pair of pants reminds me of like a flat front elastic back. So I like the fact that in the front it's flat, but in the back you have a little bit of action with elastic. So it's like whatever size you cut, you could kind of like, if you gain weight, the elastic will pop, you know, pop in and out, in and out, in and out. So this would be a great pattern that I would say that you could do as like some quick summer pants for you to go on vacation. Because, you know, vacation is still here. We're not out of summer yet. So this pattern would be great for you to put in your wardrobe, you know, to sew up to put in your wardrobe, but also put it in your archives. All right. So let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next pattern is another pant pattern. It's McCall 7576. So this pattern is basically elastic waist, loose fitted pants. You have elastic at the waist. Now, this one, you could use many different fabrics. You can use some lace and some cotton. You could use crepes. You could use whatever fabric that you want. One thing that I will mention is make sure you measure your pattern pieces to make sure you get the length that you want. All right. But once again, it's McCall 7576. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall's 8099. I've been meaning to do these cargo style pants slash shorts for a while now, since they came out, but you know, I haven't gotten around to it. I want to get around to it pretty soon. I like the fact that, you know, it's elastic. Like, I love elastic things, okay? But this is McCall's 8099. Let's go ahead and get into the last pattern in this category for the lower body. All right. So the last pattern is New Look 6691. This pattern is a Mrs. Slim or flared pair of pants with pockets and a tight belt. I like this pattern. This pattern is just your normal flowy pants that you could dress up with some heels, dress down with some flats, dress down with some tennis shoes, dress up with some wedges. This pattern is so versatile. I would say get into this pattern. All right. Now I covered the lower body, you guys. Now let's go ahead and get into that dirty 30. All right. So the dirty 30 is all about your jackets, coats, and jumpsuits. So let's go ahead and get into the first pattern. So in this category, I only selected 6 because a couple of things about it is like where I live, I don't do a lot of coats because it doesn't really get cold here. Jackets, I love me blazers and jackets and things of that nature. And I definitely like jumpsuits. Now, I don't wear jumpsuits very often, but I like to give you guys those options for those of you who love jumpsuits. All right. So the first pattern that I am going to suggest to you guys is 7756. So this is a jumpsuit and romper pattern. It has like that front, the front has that extend, it has ties. The front extends into the ties where you have the ties in the front, and just make sure you tie it very well because we don't want no tie showing. We don't want those things showing and popping things in the face and everything. All right. But the waist has elastic. You have your pockets. You have different sleeve variations. You have different leg length variations as well. So you could make it like a long jumpsuit or you can make it as a romper. All right. But this is 7756. Let's go ahead and get into the next one. So the next one is more like your loungewear set, right? It's McCall's 8245. And this pattern is romper, jumpsuit, robe, and a sash, okay? So the romper and the jumpsuit are V-neck, right? And then you have the wide leg pants or you have the pull-on pants, whichever one you want. Now the robe has that wide front band, long sleeves, and have that sash as well. But to me, this is more of like a knit lounge set. So what fabric would you use? Knit, right? All right. So you would definitely need knit in order to sew this pattern up. All right. But once again, it's McCall's 8245. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next pattern is Vogue 1807. So this pattern is a jumpsuit pattern. I like the fact that it's flowy. You can make it short or long, like you see in the pattern. But yeah, it's loose fitting and this is more like a halter style jumpsuit. All right. But once again, it's Vogue 1807. Move it over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall 7609. It is a jumpsuit pattern. It's basically a pull on off the shoulder romper and jumpsuit that has elastic at the waist. I Have not sewn this pattern yet, but it's been on my list forever and my list keeps growing. All right. But I like the fact that the elastic is at the shoulder, so you could kind of like pull it down and have a little sexy one shoulder on, one shoulder off the shoulder, you know, type effect. You could also have it just all the way across. You could basically make it look like a top. You could do many things with, you know, elastic at your shoulders. All right. But once again, it is 7609. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is McCall 7577. And this pattern is a cross bodice romper jumpsuit and belt. So this pattern is basically your pull-on romper and jumpsuit. It has that shape back yoke, sleeve, and length variation. Now this pattern is out of print, so if you are looking for this pattern, I would highly suggest wait for it to go on sale on the Simplicity website and snatch it up. All right, but once again, this pattern is McCall 7577. Let's go ahead and move over to the last pattern in this category for your Dirty 30, which features your jackets, jumpsuits, and your coat. So the last pattern is another jumpsuit. It's Butterick 6566. And for this pattern, it's basically your romper, your jumpsuit, and your sash. It's loose fitting. You can either get a dress, you could get a romper, you could get a jumpsuit out of this pattern. But the only thing you need, honey, you just need some elastic. That's it. You just need elastic. But this pattern is Butterick 6566. All right, so now that we talked about the Dirty 30, the jackets, coats, and jumpsuit, let's move over to the last category, which will be your coordinates, what I like to call conditioning, because we're going to condition that body and make sure that all the pieces blend together in the coordinate section. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first pattern for the coordinate section would be McCall's 8100. So for this pattern, you have the tops, the shorts, and the pants. This pattern is currently out of print, but I could definitely see myself doing a 3-piece set where I have the top. I could pair the top with the shorts or the top with the pants. I would definitely say do all three, because one thing that I want to do going into 2024 is use the pattern more than once, okay? Because I know that I used the pattern one time and I'm like, okay, I didn't sew it, that's it. But I want to I'm going to tell you one of the persons that on YouTube that does a great job utilizing her patterns is T from Crumpet Tea and Sewing. She literally sews one pattern at least 2 or 3 times and then different views, and she'll do muslins and, you know, mock-ups and stuff like that. So she does a great job. If you do not know who T from Crumpet Tea and Sewing is, I'm going to put her channel in the description box below so you can go to her channel and see what I'm talking about when I say that T literally uses she used a lot of patterns and does many views on that pattern. So I think she's one of the best persons to even say that she does a lot of different views on the pattern, and she maximizes her patterns and what she's going to do hacks and all that good stuff for her pattern. So I'll link to her channel in the description box below so you are able to check that out. All right, but this is McCall's 8100. Nice coordinate set. Let's go ahead and move over to the next one. So the next pattern is McCall's 8108. I'm sorry, this should not even be in the coordinate section. Sorry for that. Thank my daughter for that, right? But this should be in the dress section. This is a dress, and this is a Empire seam gathered dress with various length and neckline and strap variations. Okay, so you could have the straps, you could be strapless, you could change out the sleeve, you could do many things with this dress. But I thought this was a cute pattern to do, but once again, it's McCall's 8108. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is more like your athleisure wear. It's McCall's 8208. And this pattern is basically just your biker shorts as well as a top. And then for the biker shorts, you can make it in contrast colors as well, but you're just gonna need some elastic, all right? So let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern. The next pattern is McCall's 8249. Now in this pattern, you have your knit top or hoodie, and then you have your pants. It's an easy to sew pattern, but I love the fact that, you know, those jogger pants, it's calling my name. So I gotta make it pretty soon, all right? But once again, this is McCall's 8249. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. So the next pattern, I just mentioned this pattern because it was just released in the summer portion of McCall patterns. It's McCall's 8412 or 8411. And this is basically a bodysuit, robe, short, and pant pattern. I like the fact that you could get a whole set by just using some elastic to get you a whole set. And this is one of the patterns that I did put on my list for the summer, but I may not get around to it this summer, but please believe you will probably see it in spring going into summer next year. All right. But once again, it's McCall's 8411 or 8412. Let's go ahead and move over to the next one. So the next pattern is McCall's 8261, which is also another coordinate pattern, which happens to be your robe, your jumpsuit, and your sash pattern. Once again, so you could do every single view on here and maximize your, wear the top with the pants, wear the top with a robe. You could just wear the robe by itself. You could wear the romper by itself. So you can maximize your pattern, but all you need is some elastic. All right. Once again, it's McCall's 8261. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next pattern is Vogue 1914. I like the fact that it is a top and pant pattern. So basically it's a cardigan, tunic, and pant pattern. The cardigan has that button front going on at the front, and guess what? You just gonna need elastic. Now, a couple of things for this pattern. Now, I am not looking at the button front cardigan style. I am actually looking at view B and C, where you have the top and the pants. So that's the view that I am going to recommend to you because it's just elastic. We're not trying to talk about zippers, buttons, or snaps or any of that. We're just talking about elastic here. So I got to keep this elastic style, not button style. All right. Moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is one of the patterns that I have done before. It's McCall 7635. It is another coordinate pattern. However, if you look at the back of the pattern envelope for the waterfall jacket, you will see that you will need 2 buttons, and the buttons go for the tabs that you have here. It's kind of like you see here, the tab right here. And by the way, this is New Look 6374. I forgot to mention that at the very beginning of this video, but what I have on is New Look 6374. I did a pattern review for it. I'm not doing a sew along for it, all right, because it's an older pattern. But one thing that I will mention about McCall 7635, the tabs go here. Now, however, you could get around of not doing tabs if you don't plan on rolling up your sleeves, or just roll them up and 86 the buttons and the tab. You can get away with that and just make it only elastic, and the elastic would be for your pants. You do not need any elastic for your knit top. You do not need any elastic for your dress as well, and you do not need elastic for your waterfall jacket. However, I will say that if you have never done welt pockets, I would say look at a YouTube video so you are aware of how to do welt pockets. Another thing I will mention about this pattern, McCall 7635, I will put it in the description box below. But Brittany J. Jones has kind of like a wardrobe builder. And in that video, she walks you through how to do every single view on this pattern. It is one that you have to purchase, okay? But I will put all of that in the description box below. So if you are interested in purchasing this from Brittany J. Jones and go through view A, B, C, D, and E, that's up to you. All right. Thank me later. All right. I'll make sure to put it up on the screen as well as in the description box below. But let's go ahead and get it over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is a Sew Your View. I think they did this back in February. Don't quote me on the month that they actually did this pattern, but it's Vogue 1929. All right. So this pattern is a knit top, dress, or pant pattern. You only gonna need some elastic, y'all. Now, if you follow the hashtag Sew Your View on Instagram, you will see many of the ladies have done this pattern, Vogue 1929. I think it's a nice pattern. It reminds me of like lounge wear set as well. I did not get around to it when it was Sew Your View for that month, but it's on my list to sew. I like everything that the ladies did for this pattern. It's just, I didn't have time to sew it, but I'm going to start making time to do some of these Sew Your Views as well. All right. I like to do more of them and participate more each month with different challenges, but I need to know it in advance. All right. Moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is Simplicity 9130, which is a Mrs. Top and bottom. Now this pattern right here, you will need elastic for the skirt. The top just seems like a basic top, all right? But you can always jazz up these tops and make it yours. One thing I will mention is you can always take a plain top and make it do this. All right, and how you do that is you could, add a sleeve to a pattern that doesn't have sleeve. Take a sleeve from a different pattern, make it do what it do. You could add to it. You could color block it. You could do so many things. So if you're just looking at a pattern, you're like, I'm gonna sew this right out the package, right? And then you'd be like, I really don't like that. Try to jazz it up. Try to think of the line art in a different format. Like, for me, when I look at a pattern, I look at different ways that I can hack it. And most of the time, if I'm not filming a sew along, I will hack a pattern, add sleeves from a different pattern. That's how I try to get more out of just the line art that I see on the pattern. All right. But if you notice, and I say this in many videos, I look at the line art to see what I could do to make the pattern be like, ha ha, versus, you know what I'm saying? So you could do the same thing as well. Look at the line art and not the pattern envelope. All right, moving over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is definitely on my summer sewing for next year. All right, it's New Look 6729. And this is a Mrs. Dress top and skirt pattern. I know it has cutouts. Girl, why you got these cutouts? So I do have something planned for next year's summer. And this one is definitely one that's going to be on my list to sew, because I feel like a flowy dress or a flowy skirt will be the way to go for where I'm going to be going. All right. But once again, it's New Look 6729. Let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern. So the next pattern is one that's been on my list since I moved to Florida. This is one of the first patterns that I picked up when I first moved to Florida, and it's New Look 6677. So I like the pants and I like the tie jacket. I think they are calling it like a tie jacket, tie bow, whatever. Top style, right? I like this, and I have the perfect fabric for it already. It's just I need to sew it. I just need to make time and sew it. All right. So I definitely want to put this pattern in my spring collection. So you may be seeing it coming next spring. All right. But once again, it's New Look 6677. Let's go ahead and move over to the last pattern. So the last pattern is the easy to sew pattern. It's New Look 6461. So this one is a classic dress, tunic, top, and some crop pants. You could do this as a whole coordinate set, and you in and out the door, not dough, but door. I sound like a straight up Southerner. I've been talking to my sister a little too long. All right. But anyway, back to regular scheduled viewing. So with this pattern, I will say that I think it was Mimi G. She sewed this pattern up, and it looks amazing on Mimi. What doesn't look good on Mimi? But anyway, I think this would be a great one that you could sew up, put in your wardrobe for everyday wear. You could also do it for a work wardrobe wear. Just add some sleeves or whatever. Make the pants. I think the pants are long enough. I don't think you need to add any length to it whatsoever. I mean, this would be great as casual, beach wear, work wear. I mean, you could use this pattern for so many different things. All right. Well, that's it for the other 50 additional patterns that I came up with for elastic only, which means no zippers, no buttons, no snaps, just elastic. And all of the patterns that I just featured are all beginner friendly and easy to sew. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. That's it for this video. And since you made it this far, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, and also smash that notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. So I'll catch you in the next video. And as always, keep sewing.
Where's Da Vinci?
They're picking sides, they're crossing the line.